Happy Friday, and welcome here to another edition of Husker Online Headlines. Sean Callahan, Steve Sipple, together for the first time this week as we had a tape show that dropped Monday. Did very well, by the way, the pre-spring preview discussion show we had. But I'm back from Florida.
Welcome back, Sean.
First thing I did when I landed, I got the staples removed from my head.
There's a lot of directions I could go with that.
But
but
I got a little bit
job.
of sun, as you can see. I got a little color.
Yeah, you got a little.
I didn't overdo. I mean, the sun in Florida, we were down in West Palm Beach, which is just north of Fort Lauderdale. The sun, my wife is Cuban and she got sun. I mean, the sun is no joke there. Even if you put sunblock on, it's
so
got
you were wearing sunblock.
Yeah, the only area I got bad were my feet. Like, I didn't put sunblock on my feet. My feet are like red strawberries right now.
Oh, not good.
It's fine. I mean, it is what it is, but great getaway. And, was able to watch a spring training baseball game.
Okay, that's fun.
I saw the Mets play the Astros.
Nice. Did you recognize any players?
Well, Jose Altuve.
Yeah, hell yeah.
Played no Juan Soto.
Okay.
But it was like a 1:00 on a Tuesday.
Beautiful.
And there was like 6,000 people at the game.
Beautiful. Hey, the other thing I noticed about you, you're amazing. You still wrote your columns.
Yeah, I worked from vacation. I mean, that's kind of the give and trade of this job. Like, and my kids are young enough that when you go on a vacation, they're not staying up till midnight. Like they go to bed at like 8:00. Well, perfect time to set up shop and get caught up,
Yeah, then when they get older, they don't want to be hanging around you too much anyway.
And then my wife, by that point, my wife's done with me for the day and she wants a break. So
I totally understand that.
So crack open a Coors Light and get to work.
Yeah, you wrote some good columns and had a nice getaway.
I missed the press conference, and that's going to lead us into headline number 1. But before we get to that, again, Husker Online Headlines brought to you by the title sponsor, StayHome.Care. They are there for you and the loved ones in your life. Whether you know someone that's coming off of surgery or someone that needs help for simple duties like a ride to a doctor's appointment, cooking, cleaning, grocery shopping, you name it, they can do it all at StayHome.Care. It's never too early to call to learn about their services. Call them at 402-205-2233. That's 402-205-2233. StayHome.Care. Your home, our care. StayHome.Care. Thanks again to StayHome.Care, the title sponsor here of the show. But let's get into headline number 1. Matt Rule lays out extensive injury report, kind of going through the numbers. And, when you're talking about a future of a 105-man roster in college football, he shared 18 players that won't be a part, or at least in some ways maybe limited during spring ball. And let's go through that list.
Hey, what stop. Let's go. Let's stay big picture for a second. I was thinking about this morning when I was thinking about the show. You've covered this program for 25 years. Is that right? Do you remember the list being this long?
What I don't remember is a lot of coaches just don't share that stuff. And then we just go over there and you'd kind of like have to uncover it yourself.
Right.
And
so that might be it.
But I do think it's pretty natural, and the season is over. Guys have surgeries and get things done, like Gunnar Gatula, Henry Latoski. I mean, Carter Nelson played in the bowl game.
Right.
And it was a pain thing that he was tolerating. It wasn't like, Gabe Ervin, when he had his hip injury, that was a severe deal.
Yeah. Carter knew he was going to have surgery as he was playing in the bowl game.
And that cropped up as a discussion point this week. But
what's that?
That Carter, questioning Carter Nelson's availability for the season. And for
2025.
Right. And we've never heard, we've had direct conversations with his family at the airport.
Never said a word.
That's the thought all along is get it done right away when the bowl's over. And then 6 months later, you're cleared.
Well, yeah. And in fact, the thought was get him going in July. And, then August camp comes around and he's going to compete to play at tight end. No, I wasn't suggesting, I wasn't suggesting that this is an inordinately long list, but I was thinking back over the years, and I think, like going back to the Osborne years, if he would have laid out a list like this, I think we would have been like, what? Like and some of it, I think, is you couldn't, as a player in that era, you couldn't miss spring ball because you'd get left in the dust. So I think that the life has changed a little bit in college football.
In the 105 roster era, especially.
Yeah.
Like you're not trying to win the war in April. You're trying to get these guys ready for September.
That's true.
And, that list of guys, Demetrius Bell, still out, by the way.
Right.
From an injury last spring.
That was one that, right when Rule said Demetrius Bell, I was kind of not disappointed in Demetrius Bell at all. Just disappointed that we're not going to see him because I think he's a player.
And it's been a year.
Yeah.
Jameer Khan, a transfer, a guy that started at Southern Illinois. Somebody you thought maybe, but now he's out for the spring. Connor Keneally, another one that had a major injury.
Okay.
Turner Corcoran, we knew a hamstring surgery on him. Jalen George, another guy that you would like to have seen this spring from East Tennessee State.
Well,
has a pec injury, I'm told. He's out for the spring.
So what you wonder is, did they come in hurt?
Well, I think George got hurt at the mat drills or in the winter workouts.
How about Khan?
Don't know about Khan. Don't know his deal. Gunnar Gatula, we know, had the surgery. Roger Gradney missed the year last year. He got hurt in fall camp. Mac Markway got hurt last year. That was an injury from last fall. Dawson Merritt had shoulder surgery after his season ended in Kansas City. Pierce Mooberry had a surgery as well. Carter Nelson, we know, had the hip. I don't know what Keelan Smith was out with. Evan Taylor had a severe knee injury before he got to Nebraska, and he's still out with that. So that's the outs. The limited, Tristan Alvano, another guy that had trouble with the sports hernia and had to have that redone essentially. David Borchers, a walk-on lineman from Iowa, out initially, but back at some point. Sua Lefatu, a big-bodied guy. We just haven't seen much play. And he's limited again. Henry Latoski, limited deal that he had after the season was over. And then Teddy Prohaska from the injury that he suffered at the end of the football season.
Yeah, there's some guys on here that you're kind of hoping to see. Some guys on here where it's just sort of unfortunate that they can't continue the momentum that they built last season, like Gunnar. You identified him in your 3-2-1. Gunnar played with a shoulder injury for much of last season, but played well, held in there really well at left tackle. And I would have liked to see, just, for the sake of him as a human, to be able to continue with that momentum. Not to say that he can't regain the momentum, but it would have been, nice for him to go into spring at one of those tackle spots. Elijah Pritchett, of course, is sort of earmarked for the left tackle spot. Maybe Gunnar can play the right side, or maybe Gunnar, Sean, is it possible that Gunnar would say, no, I want to compete for the left spot?
I just don't know if that's possible with the amount of money that's been invested at the left tackle position. Like they are paying Elijah Pritchett to be a left tackle.
Yeah, you're right.
These
are questions, though, right?
Well, I mean,
don't you have to pay Gunnar some money too now?
No,
because hold on.
I think you pay him a standard way. I don't think he got in there because of the injuries before. He did a solid job. Elijah Pritchett was a day one starter at Alabama. You could do whatever you want to say about his Pro Football Focus grade.
What was bad?
But he got the end of the year improved, and they moved him around. He played left for a game or two, played right. The rest of the way. I think all but one of his starts were at right tackle. He'll move back, though, to his more natural position of left.
If I was Gunnar's agent, just engage me, Sean. I would say, wait a second. Gunnar had a better PFF than this guy. He's playing in the Big Ten. What are we talking about here? Why can't my guy get paid?
Would Gunnar Gatula be a day one left tackle starter at Alabama?
Well,
would he?
I mean, I don't want to rule that out.
No, I'm just saying, that's what I look at it as. Like, could these guys right now, would they go to Alabama on a roster of 50, 60, 4 and 5-star guys? Would they be able to start at day one at left or right?
Well, I
tackle?
would ask you right now, would Elijah Pritchett be a day one starter at Alabama this year?
Yes.
Would he be their starting left tackle going into 2025?
No, because they have Proctor.
Well, so he's not.
He wants to be a left. That's the deal. Like him and Proctor were both lefts, and he.
All I'm saying, Sean, I'm not trying to fight with you. I'm just saying, if I want to treat Gunnar Gatula fairly.
No, he did I'm not saying he didn't do a solid job, because he did. He did exactly what he was supposed to do. But yeah,
At left tackle,
he was able to
at a premier position.
Yeah, because who else did they have at that point? I mean, he saved it for him, because after the Corcoran, after the Prohaska injuries, they could have put Micah Mazuka out there if they had to.
Agents are a pain in the you-know-what, right? But I'm trying to be a pain in the you-know-what. I want to get my guy paid a little bit. He played 9 games as a starter at left tackle in the Big Ten and held up well. He's
coming off injury. He's hurt. He's got to prove it. Like, what will be the body of work to prove it in the spring?
Well, doesn't Pritchett have to prove it?
Well, he's already got his deal.
Okay.
I mean, the deals are already done. So, like, there's no more money. Like, the deals for these guys get signed in January. You can't be this I want more money guy, because they've already signed the deals. Like you don't re-up your deal in the middle of June.
I hear you.
I mean, he could go, and the guys could go, and that's what makes you wonder, like, if things look solid at the tackle positions and the guards, because I do think Justin Evans and Rocco Spindler have the guard spots. They look to be in good shape. Do
you know what the complication is, Sean? You know what it is. What if Pritchett comes in and he doesn't look good in the spring? What happens then? Now what? That can happen, by the way. We have seen it.
We saw it with the quarterback position.
Right. It's not
it wasn't pretty.
Right. We have seen it. There's precedent. Yes, they're paying him money, and you want it to be, okay, earn your money. Let's see. That's why I like the conversations. Now, who else?
Sam Sledge at center, though, is a big one. But what about Corcoran and Prohaska? What if the starting 5 looks in a good position? Like, those guys have a really tough decision at some point. Like, do they want to rehab and get right? But what's their marketability in the portal?
God, that's a good question. I mean, my guess is pretty good.
They would both have options if they went that route, but I don't think, like Ted, I don't think they want to either. I think they want to be here.
Right. So it'd be nice if you could say, Sean, they're ready to roll this spring. Corcoran and Prohaska. It doesn't sound like they are.
Like Corcoran, I think if he was healthy for spring ball, he could give a run for the center job. Yep. Like, I really think that I see him like a Nick Gates. I never looked at Corcoran as a true tackle.
No, not really. Okay, so the center position, who's the odds-on favorite right now?
Well,
to be the day one starter.
Obviously, Justin Evans could play it, but it seems like they're pushing Sam Sledge that way.
Mm-hmm.
And then
I think too.
Jason Machacek is another guy that is another name to watch.
God, I wish we could watch. No, I shouldn't say that. Rule kills me for that. But
you'll get just sub blasted now.
Just to see what that looks like. Hey, Sean, just to see what that looks like, right? What's Sam look like? I'd love to see that.
I think we just need to get on a coaching staff of a high school and then just attend the coaches clinic.
Or just dress up like a coach.
Say, yeah, we're volunteer football coaches at.
Like the guy at Michigan did out of Central Michigan sideline. Where's that guy?
We're volunteer. I'm volunteer coach at just some obscure school.
Or Scott.
No, gross. Omaha South.
Wear your hat down. Anywho.
I'm helping out.
Alvano's a big one. Tristan Alvano still limited. He'll try to push John Hull for that job. Sua Lefatu, we don't know much about.
He's a big body that he came here with major injuries, out of high school. He had the knee injuries, and he's pre-injury Sua, he was a major recruit, but Nebraska kind of had to take a chance on him, and he's battled these injuries since he's been here.
Why do I even pick him out? Because they need depth up front.
As you would say, he's a big.
Yeah, he's a big. Mass kicks ass. And Nebraska, I mean, the one thing you wonder about this team a little bit, Sean, is do they have enough juice? Do they have enough, on the defensive line, particularly the interior?
Like they are a very good 7-on-7 team right now.
Right.
But
what
about
Penn
11
State on November 22nd isn't playing 7-on-7 football. You don't want to go to Penn State and have them put 256 yards rushing on you and Dylan not have the ball.
54 tailback carries.
Yeah, and Dylan not have the ball in his hand. right? So that's just something to throw out there.
All right. Well, before we take it to headline number 2, again, HuskerOnline Headlines brought to you by StayHome.Care, title sponsor. Give them a call, 402-205-2233 to learn more about the services they can offer. We're also brought to you by Crani-Yum. And if you're not familiar with Crani-Yum, we've been talking about it on the show for quite some time. It is a energy drink founded by 2 lifelong Nebraskans and Husker fans based out of Fremont, Nebraska. And you can pick it up in your favorite Hy-Vee health markets and other supplement stores around the state. But you can also order it on their website at drinkcranium.com. That's CRANIYUM.com. And they just got a restock, by the way, of the Dr. Yum, which is the cherry Dr. Pepper flavor that they had sold out on. And what's different about Crani-Yum is it's sugar-free and it's got a lot of natural ingredients, no artificial colors. It makes it healthier than most of your energy drinks on the market today. So give it a try. You can go on their website, drinkcranium.com. We're going to give you 10% off on the website if you order from them by simply using the promo code HuskerOnline. That's promo code HuskerOnline, and you'll receive 10% off your order. drinkcranium.com. They've got 3 great flavors. They've got the peach flavor, the Dr. Yum flavor, and then the lemon lime, my personal favorite of the 3. Again, that's drinkcranium.com, promo code HuskerOnline. Okay, headline number 2. What to expect from Dylan Raiola in year 2. And we heard Matt Rule kind of lay things on the line. And we've talked about this on this show that we're in a different position with the quarterback spot. It's the first time really since Adrian Martinez where Nebraska can go into a spring comfortably knowing that they've got the starting quarterback.
That's it.
Where the previous springs before, we've had to kind of play out these battles, and some were authentic battles and some were not. And the results kind of didn't lead to much. I mean, you can go back to previous springs and kind of how things have played out, but now they've got their guy, Dylan Raiola.
Yeah.
And what is this going to look like with Dana Holgorsen and Dylan Raiola together this spring?
Well, number one, Dylan has the opportunity now to be a more vocal leader. As Rule pointed out, and is quoting Rule, last year as a highly recruited freshman at this time, I think you saw him try to keep his voice quiet and just earn everyone's respect. Rule said this: I think now he has to step up and lead. Now, Sean, you would nod your head, but you got to think about it in depth. That's not easy. He's got to challenge guys. He's got to tell guys, you know what he's got to do? He's got to do what you have to do sometimes. Tell people what they don't want to hear. You know, it's easier said than done. Be a vocal leader, Dylan. Sounds good. But then when you get down to the day-to-day, that gets pretty challenging. Dylan is extremely intelligent. He's very football savvy. He's very verbal. He can do it, but there's a willingness that has to be there. Is he willing to do it? So we'll see on that. That's the first thing. The second thing is the body composition, which Rule talked about on Tuesday at the pre-spring press conference. He said that quote that you took note of. Everybody did. He said he won't be a great quarterback at 240 pounds. So getting his body composition to a point where he can be fleet of foot, to where he can slide nimbly and move within the pocket, to where he can convert third downs with his feet. I think that's something we've all bought into.
And I think Dylan wants to hear that. He wants to be pushed that way. I think Dylan's father, Dominic, loves that the coaches are going to challenge Dylan to get his weight down to that level. And Dana Holgorsen, I think, is the ultimate button pusher. He's not afraid to say what needs to be said.
Blunt.
He's
blunt.
That's why I think you and Dana would get along real well.
Yeah. Yeah. He's very blunt. Now, this Rule comment about 240 pounds, obviously people are talked about that, Sean, during your vacation. I don't know that he was saying that Dylan got to 240 pounds. I don't know that that's exactly what he meant. It's possible that's what he meant, but it's also possible that he was just saying he wouldn't be effective if he was 240 pounds. Dylan looks I think he already looks like, if you see the social media photos of him at games, if you see him at games, which we've seen him live, he already looks like he's lost weight to me. And what I always say, Sean, I never worry about Dylan. I just don't worry about him. He's a hard grinding learner. He knows, he's extremely intelligent with this position. He knows what he has to do. He'll do it.
Well, and when teams play you where they cover everybody man to man with safeties over the top and nothing's there, because that's going to happen. Like, you're going to either force it or nothing's there. And what is there is a running lane.
Yep.
And that, I'm not saying you got to be 80-yard runs, but if there's 7 yards, 5 yards,
oh God, yes,
you've got to tuck it and go. And we saw USC Jaden Maeva in the game this year. Couple key moments, he tucked it and ran.
You saw it throughout the college football playoffs. I tweeted it a couple
Will
times.
Howard.
Yeah, I tweeted a couple of times. I hope Dylan's watching this. I mean, Will Howard.
Riley Leonard at Notre Dame.
Riley Leonard's a runner. He ran for 800 yards this year.
I mean, and we're not saying Dylan needs to do that.
No.
But that is, I think, the difference. If you can strategically get those 3 or 4 first downs off runs, that changes a game.
100. I mean, I just go back to the playoffs and watch those guys. Quinn Ewers, not great at it, not great, but he did run. Teams
drop 7 or even 8, and you recognize that, and they're not blitzing. You've got to go.
Yep,
and you got to take it.
Yeah,
Mahomes does it as well as anybody in the NFL. He takes it every Sunday.
Yeah, and as far as that weight goes, if you're 220 and pretty streamlined, I mean, it's about getting to the stick, Sean. It's about getting to that stick,
beating the linebacker to the angle.
Yeah, and if you're a little heavy, and I'm just talking about any quarterback at this point, and you don't have that last few steps burst to the stick, you won't get there, and it'll hang your team up, and you're punting when you could have a first down.
When Scott Frost was here, I remember Tanner Lee could have come back, and he chose to go pro, and he got drafted. But one of the things, I talked to somebody back then, they said, look, to play in that offense, you have to have a quarterback that can beat the linebacker to the angle.
Yeah.
And beating the linebacker to the angle is getting a 3rd and 7 with your feet at the angle. That's where Dylan needs to be at. Is he explosive enough to beat a linebacker to the sticks?
Right. And here's the thing about Dylan. He's athletic. Dylan's an athletic kid. He'll be fine. He'll be fine.
But yeah,
so what do we expect? I don't know. He completed 67% of his passes last year. You wouldn't expect that. You don't have to get that number much better. I think it was 13 touchdown passes, 11 picks. Obviously, he wants that ratio to be better, right? Just overall proficiency I think will get better.
The receiver play too is going to be better. I mean, you're going to have guys that can beat man coverage. That's what you hope.
So, yeah.
You hope that Dane Key, Hadley Gilmore, Cortez Mills,
Isaiah Hunter,
Ja'Cory Barney. Yeah. That group right there can beat man to man. Because last year
they didn't have many guys that could do it.
They had guys that struggled with the press coverage, and
they did.
It really showed up in the Purdue game when they drew all those penalties. That almost was a foreshadowing of they got out of it with that game with drawing 7 pass interference penalties. But it was also a red flag to me, God, they're not getting open.
Right. Yeah, so you hope they went out and got guys that can beat man coverage. And then the wild card, you have Heinrich Haarberg, and I believe that's a wild card. And if Carter Nelson is healthy, if he's ready to roll like we think, you got 2 wild cards.
And then Luke Lindemeyer's a solid complementary tight end.
Yeah. I think that this Haarberg conversation is going to get very, very compelling.
Could Janiron Bonner end up being kind of more like a tight end?
Swiss Army knife, and I think it's fine for him to be a Swiss Army knife. I don't like that. I don't like to say that about a lot of players, but he's that guy, and I'm glad you brought him up because he can't be forgotten. He's too valuable.
But I don't see him beating out some of these transfer guys, but I do think he can find a role.
He can run it. I mean, he's a runner too. I mean, you can hand the ball to him. Ooh, there's a thought, by the way.
He's really good in the red zone.
I know. I wonder if he can play running back. Just a thought.
I mean, some of the things they did, like Satterfield, like one of the strengths he did was draw up some pretty good red zone things.
Yeah, he did. And Bonner was part of that. I mean, you saw Bonner run the ball into the end zone, right?
Yeah.
So
little flip passes.
Yeah. I'm glad you brought up Janiron Bonner because he can be valuable. He can be very valuable.
All right. Before we go to headline 3, again, brought to you by StayHome.Care. Call them at 402-205-2233 or check them out at the website, StayHome.Care. It's never too early to learn about the services that they can help you and your family with. And we're also brought to you by Ridge Wallets. And let me tell you, I have 2 now. I ended up getting.
Oh, you're kidding me.
I ended up going, Mr. Sipple. I've got the all metal one, but I also got they have a leather one too.
Ooh, that's sharp.
And it's
good looking.
Yeah. And
where'd you get that?
I got this at Shields. Bought it on my own because I was so impressed with their products. They just came out with a line of leather wallets, kind of more traditional.
I need that.
But I still get like 12 cards in here, which is all you need.
Look at this.
All right. Well,
look at this piece of crap.
But you can see all their great things on the website. And what I liked about this, because I carry cash around, it's still got the cash pocket in there too.
How much cash?
But what's that?
Don't answer that.
How much cash?
That's a very personal question.
But you can get the thing is they're so versatile, and you can get your favorite team, your favorite color, different styles of metal. They have everything you could ever imagine at Ridge, and now they offer even leather wallets as well. If you want kind of a traditional wallet from Ridge, and that's what I got just recently. Took it on my vacation. It was great. Didn't have to take it out of my pocket. It fit perfectly. Got 12 cards in there, plenty of cash. It's all you need. And it kind of forced me to downsize some of the cards I was carrying that I didn't really need to be carrying. Yep. Like sometimes you've got like a gift card in your wallet with like $7 on it still, and you haven't used it for like 2 years. Or like
get it out of there.
A punch card to a lunch restaurant that you only got like 2 punches on it.
Yeah.
I'll save this punch card for lunch.
So Shields, I wonder if they have them anywhere else.
Yeah. Well, but their website's still where you want to go. And because we're going to get you 40% off.
Okay.
So go to the website, ridge.com/Husker. That's ridge.com/Husker. And we're going to get you up to 40% off on your order of Ridge wallets. Love the product. Check it out. Get on their website. Again, that's ridge.com/Husker, and check out their new leather wallets. I mean, this thing is thin.
Yes, it's sharp.
That one comes in brown too.
Yeah, I'd go black.
I went with the black one, and
it's sharp.
I loved it. And I got my old wallet kind of in retirement. It's just sitting in a cabinet.
Kept it.
Well, because I'm keeping like cards I don't use in there now.
Okay.
It's kind of like
God, you have a system, Sean. I admire you.
All right. Let's get into headline number 3. The transfers hit the podium, and they leave a strong first impression as last year we did hear from one transfer at one of these press conferences, Jamal Banks. But it's usually not the norm that you hear from a transfer player before even a snap of spring football takes place. But I think that tells you kind of where it's at, the type of investment Nebraska's made, and the type of transfers they brought in. We heard from Dane Key at receiver, Rocco Spindler on the O-line, the Notre Dame transfer, and then Dasan McCullough, the Oklahoma edge transfer. Those are the 3 players that spoke on Tuesday as we head into spring break here. All 3 left strong impressions, and you get the sense that some of these transfers are going to be in positions where they're going to be in leadership spots on this football team.
Like, Sean, I love these discussions. You do get that sense. And you know what? I think you're probably right, because they came out of mat drills and Rule put them up there. Okay. So they probably showed the coaching staff quite a bit during, I'm going to say 3 weeks of mat drills, right? That's about a 3-week ordeal. Mm-hmm. And, leadership, you got to keep doing it. You got to keep proving yourself every day. And we'll see. You know what, Sean, I don't do anymore that I used to, is just hand out praise. Let's just see what they do. Let's see what they look like in the spring. Let's see how they come out of spring. But yeah, they're each impressive in their own way. I thought the most, I don't know, it seemed like I was a little bit of an island on this. But I thought maybe the most telling comments I heard on Tuesday from the players was about the mat drills. It was Rocco Spindler, 13-game starter for Notre Dame this past season, saying that he was surprised by the mat drills and how tough they were. He said they were no joke. He said, I even told my parents I did not know that they take mat drills this seriously here. He said it was good. These were good comments. These made me more confident about Rhule's program. He said it was really tough to get through and attack it. It's legit. This was the best praise I've heard of Rhule's program maybe from anybody. It's a hard program to be part of. That's what Rocco said. It's a hard program to be part of. That's a compliment. It should be a hard program to be part of.
Well, I think Nebraskans in general, that's what they want to hear.
Uh-huh.
Like they don't, this is not UCLA in the 80s or, it
took a shot at UCLA in the 80s.
I'm just, like Nebraska had to do things differently, like this is
right.
I mean, you just think about, I'm just thinking like Nebraska has, they don't have all the advantages of location, but what they do have are elite facilities, nutrition, strength program resources, and you've got to utilize that.
You know what else Nebraska has? It has a lot of media that shower players with praise before they do anything. That's what Nebraska has a lot of too, right?
Oh yeah, Jason Peter has gone. I've heard him go off that we've got this ability here to want to crown people before they actually do anything.
We have that. That's for sure. And that's why I like to hear this. Rocco Spindler saying this is a hard program to be part of because you got to balance it out. You can't have a bunch of players walking around that feel like they've arrived because this program hasn't done anything in a long time. Now, getting to a bowl was a step, but winning the championship of the Pinstripe Bowl isn't what anybody's looking for.
No, there's a lot more there. And I was listening to it on vacation, but somebody asked Rhule about winning an off-season national championship.
I think he liked that. I don't think he liked
that. Oh, he did not like that. I was listening to my wife. I go, oh boy, that was not a good question to ask Matt Rhule because he kind of brushed that off in a professional way. But
here's what Rocco said. He said, we just completed mat drills, and where I'm from, we never really experienced something like that. He's from Notre Dame, which just played for the national title. He said those 3 weeks were very challenging on the whole team. Good. That's beautiful.
Well, and
beautiful.
It tells you Rhule's background. He's played for Joe Paterno, and he learned from Joe Paterno.
Yep.
And they did that at Penn State in the 90s when he was there. And he's Penn State, like Nebraska, has a successful blue blood program, and they did things their way. And he does a similar method. He's always done that wherever he's been. And you hear that. Even when Matt Rhule first got here, I heard from a lot of people like his mat drills are some of the toughest in the country. And sometimes you don't know. It's like, are they just saying that? But no, when you have newcomers come in, and I think they've scaled them back maybe even a little bit. Some players I had heard from just casually, I think this year's maybe like the first 2 years might have been a little bit tougher than they are this year because I think we're in a different part of college football. You can't destroy your team in February.
No,
you're paying these players
a
lot of money. The transfer portal and the other elements, smaller roster sizes. You want to push them, but I don't think you want to kill them either.
No, yeah, you don't want to destroy it, but you want to. There's a fine line. You want to get pretty close to it sometimes, right? Right? You want to get pretty close to it, where it feels like you're destroying them.
And
you want to. There's a line you got to push it to, right?
And it's only 3 weeks. I thought it was longer than 3 weeks. So I guess the actual mat drill portion, just 3 weeks.
Dane Key said this, Sean. Just experiencing it on Dane Key from Kentucky, by the way. Played at Kentucky for 3 years. Kentucky, Stoops, SEC, tough. Just experienced it on day one. I went back and told Coach Shorts, yo, what did I get myself into? Good. That's that. He said, but ultimately it's going to make me have a stronger mentality. So I love it. That I walked out of that. I think, I walked out of Tuesday, and those comments are probably what made me feel the most confident.
I heard even like this, there are some guys that could have come back for another year that were like low level players that wouldn't have played. But, the thought of having to go through the mat drills again and knowing you're not going to play at all.
Hard.
Like some guys like, you know what, this is a good time to.
Well, and Sean, you know what's happening right now, right? They got to get down to 105.
But if
this helps that.
If you know, like you're not going to make the 105 and you've got your degree or you're going to get your degree, like I think going through that is a huge commitment.
So the 105, we don't know the exact date, right, that they need to get down to it.
Well, I think in July or August. Yeah. I think at the end of the spring, we'll know. But there could be some guys that they say, hey, you can stick around and be in school and you'll be a call-up guy that we might bring back in. But that's you just don't know.
I don't like that concept at all.
Because they can't really be with you.
They can't train. I mean, they got to train on their own. I mean, what? Come on. Maybe it works. I mean, maybe that Matt Rule could convince me that would be something that would be viable, but I don't like that. It doesn't sound good on the surface.
Well, there's some guys that are for sure going through drills right now that know that they have next to no chance to make it, but they are going to fight until they're told they're done at Nebraska.
And you know what? I love those guys. I love them. I love them. Those are the dudes that are fighting, knowing they might not even have a spot.
Those are the guys that get off the boat first and know that their chances of survival are limited, but they're gonna still fight for Nebraska.
And you know what? You know who else loves those guys is Rule. And you know what? Rule's got to be the one to tell them the bad news if it happens.
And I think he's going to, at least he's made a reference of his bottom 10, like 95 to 105 may not be the 95th to 105th best player. If you're ranking them, they might be the guys that, bring it all together, glue guys that maybe, guys that you still need in your program.
Do you know how tough those decisions are for Rule, for any coach? That's you're earning money. You're earning your money there. I mean, those are tough decisions, and he's got to have some hard conversations with guys.
The 106 guy would be as hard as any to tell me, because I'm sure like that decision will go back and forth.
Yeah,
like who the 105th versus 106, like how they do that when that day comes.
Rule was a walk-on. He was a walk-on. This part of college football is, I use the word trying for him. He was a walk-on. His essence is a walk-on, as a walk-on.
Because in the constructs of today, in these terms, he probably would not have made a team at Penn State. Right. So but look how it changed his life. Where he's coaching at Nebraska and the opportunities and what he learned. And, like I'll use an example, like Jake Peets never played it down at Nebraska, but he was a part of it, learned about it, worked under Bill Callahan, Bo Pelini.
And now what?
And advanced into NFL scouting from that.
And now what?
And now he's an offensive coordinator in the NFL.
Yeah, he's like a passing game coordinator, but he's made it in the NFL. He's a $1 million coach in the NFL. I mean, that's what he is.
Another example of the walk-on like that advances, like Garth Glissman.
Oh God, yes.
I mean, he is
Garth Glissman is in charge of SEC basketball right now.
As a quarterback, never was even in conversation to play, but he was a part of it, competed, used what he learned to kind of, build on his athletic career and advanced.
Yep. Three great examples.
I mean, like that's those
3 great examples: Rule, Jake Peets, and Garth Glissman, all walk-ons, all incredible. I would call each in their own right incredible success stories.
Well, like even I'll use another, like Matt Hoskinson.
Yeah.
Walk on, my size, was able to play.
Is he your size?
Yeah.
He's a little bigger than you, isn't he?
Well, my height, like not real tall, but was able to play eventually on a national title team. But that work ethic and mentality, he's turned it into a major pharmaceutical job or,
could you whip him?
No.
You're South though.
Matt's from Battle Creek. I know the stories of those guys were tough, but he used that work ethic and what he developed at Nebraska to become, wildly successful in the pharmaceutical on the national level.
You could go on and on.
Like there are guys
like that
that won't get that opportunity.
Right. And I guarantee you that hurts Rule to his core. I guarantee it.
Because, you need guys like Grant Buda.
Yeah.
Graduated this year. He's going to go to medical school.
Mm-hmm.
Never played really a significant snap ever in his career, but was here 4 years, got a 4.0. He's going to be a doctor.
Show up, and they show up and go to work knowing that they're probably not going to play.
You want guys like that in the program.
Backbone.
That are going to not play, but they'll be doctors someday. And then they'll come back and be around your program. And I don't know, it is when you start to size up the success stories of guys I personally know that use Nebraska football, like Brandon Rigoni.
Okay, we got the picture.
How many? You're like, all right, Sean, turn him off. Turn him off. I'm just gonna start going through every guy, everyone. I'll just show off my.
Rigoni's a great example. I get it.
There's this guy. We can just do a whole show where we just trade off. Give me one just for fun. Give me.
No, I'm not going to engage you.
All right. Before we go to headline number 4, again, we're brought to you by our title sponsor, StayHome.Care. Call them at 402-205-2233. Learn more about their services. We're also brought to you by BetterHelp. And look, life is tough. You got a lot going on with family, with work. It could be anything. And sometimes you just need someone to talk to. Well, it's not always easy to do, whether it's finding someone to talk to or finding the time to go somewhere or just the privacy that you want to have with this process. Well, BetterHelp helps you, through all these things. They first match you up with a therapist that's going to fit you, but most importantly, they help you schedule it on your time. You do it on your device, on your computer, at the time you want to do it with BetterHelp. So they make it easier for you to have someone to talk to about some of the things in life where therapy might be the best way through some of those tough days that you're battling. And if you've never tried BetterHelp, we've got a great deal with HuskerOnline. We're going to give you 10% off your first month. All you need to do is go to betterhelp.com/Husker. That is betterhelp.com/Husker. And we're going to give you 10% off your first month of HuskerOnline or with BetterHelp. Again, that's betterhelp.com/Husker for 10% off your first month. Thank you to BetterHelp for sponsoring us here on Husker Online Headlines. Okay, headline number 4, Matt Rule lays out why he hired general manager Pat Stewart. And by the way, the salary number just released on Stewart from the university. He'll make $800,000.
There it is.
As the new general manager.
Did you put that on the message board?
Yes, that's what I was typing.
Good job. Hey, Sean, that's a pretty big number.
Kind of put it in perspective. Vince Ginta and Sean Patton's combined salary was around $500,000.
This is what we expected. I thought the number might touch $1 million, but 800,000's about what I imagined. Sean, I remember. I know this is going to sound odd, but I think I'll always remember where I was when I read this paragraph about Pat Stewart. Okay, I was at my kitchen table on Tuesday of the press conference. You go back. I went back to write. I had written a story about the transfers, and then the Stewart hire had been made official that day on Tuesday. And I was reading through the release of his duties, and it hit me like a sledgehammer. This guy better make about $1 million, because this is what it says. This was according to the news release talking about Stewart's job. Listen to this one, Sean. Stewart, as the program's new general manager, will lead the Huskers roster management and player acquisition, including high school and transfer portal recruiting, evaluation, and retention. He's in charge of the roster. This man is in charge of Nebraska's roster.
Well, and they've basically taken 4 salaries to put towards his. I mean, you have Sean Patton now moved into a whole new role. Vince Ginta does not appear to be a part of things moving forward. Ryan Callahan, who has not been replaced, went to Central Florida. Mm-hmm. And then there was another position in the recruiting department that had not been filled. So if you add those 4 jobs up together, you get roughly $800,000.
Yep. There you go.
And so that's kind of what they did. Yep. I mean, they've purged it all in there. And then the remaining pieces that were below Patton and below Ginta, particularly Keith Williams, Avery Gossett, they will be underneath Pat, and he'll probably make his own hire or two as well, as Matt Rule said this week.
They'll be under Pat or Stewart?
Stewart, yeah.
Okay.
I said Pat.
Oh, Pat. Okay.
Pat. So they'll be under Pat Stewart, but
Sorry.
Keith Williams particularly will bump up, I think, in terms of his duties, because you need somebody with strong high school knowledge. I mean, Vince Ginta was as good as there was in the country at what he did, with a knowledge that dated back 20 plus years, tied back to coaching staffs with Bill Callahan, Bo Pelini, Scott Frost, Mickey Joseph, and then now Matt Rule. And he actually helped bring Keith Williams to Nebraska in the role he is in now. So if Vince is indeed gone, which it sounds like that is the direction it's gone, Keith Williams will have a big job to kind of be that lead high school recruiter. But Keith has been doing a lot of good work in that role. He's been a lead recruiter on a lot of the key offensive linemen and other pieces they've gone after.
Excuse me. So Sean, major restructuring, right? Major restructuring. Pat Stewart comes in, spent the past 2 seasons as the director of pro personnel for the New England Patriots. He has worked with Rule. He worked with Rule with the Carolina Panthers from 2020 to 2022. So they know each other very well. The majority of Stewart's time in NFL has been spent with the Patriots organization, and he was part of 2 Super Bowl championship teams. So it's a massive hire. And Rule said, quote, "We're moving into all this stuff, Sean. We're trying to make sense of this new world in real time, this new college football world in real time. It's challenging for us. People are looking to you to put it in perspective." This was what Rule said. "We're moving into a space in college football and player personnel where no one really knows what lies ahead. So you just need really smart people."
Jim in Minnesota, big voice on Twitter, commented on my post on Stewart's salary. He goes, "It's $500,000 more than they paid Sean Patton." Rule said on Tuesday that he'll still be adding more pieces to this department. So I'll be curious how that shakes out. One thing is clear, though, Sean, Dannon is not worried about being a steward of the money like Trev was.
Well, not that they're not being, well, what's the word I'm looking for, Sean? Irresponsible. I don't think Dannon spends irresponsibly.
No, they're playing to the market.
Yeah. And this GM role is, you're seeing it across college sports. You're starting to see it in college basketball. In fact, Sean, Arkansas, now where you were gone, you can't cover everything. Arkansas hired a general manager across all sports. He'll be the general manager across all the Arkansas sports.
See, that seems like a little much. I don't know how you could do that job.
It seems unwieldy.
Yeah. Like, okay, you're going to start looking at women's gymnasts and
unless it's just that maybe, okay, we're just thinking out loud.
Football, basketball, baseball.
Well, and maybe you're not doing a lot of evaluation of talent. You're just handling the money part, maybe, right? Stewart, according to his job description, will evaluate and he'll help retain. There's a lot there, right? Think about it. I just want you to think about it this way. In the past in college football, I think you'd agree, Sean, that most of the position coaches were sort of responsible for the talent in their room, right? And if the talent in the room was insufficient, you and me would talk about that position coach and say, God, he just hasn't done a very good job. Now, will that conversation be fair now? Because if there's 4 running backs, they're looking at it, and Stewart says, we're taking these 2. And the position coach says, well, that's not the 2 I want. And the general manager says, well, that's the 2 you're going to get. Well, now the conversation, if it comes up short at that position, it goes to the general manager, right? Am I overthinking it?
No, I mean, we saw that when Billy Devaney was here. There was one example that played out where Billy Devaney told Mike Cavanaugh, you need to play Matt Farniak in a starting, I believe, guard role. And Farniak, obviously a very talented lineman, wasn't ready yet. And you need to play him over Tanner Farmer, who was a skilled veteran, maybe not quite the pro prospect, obviously, that Farniak was. Well, the move ended up not working out, and they had to go immediately back to Farmer at Purdue.
You might see more of that type of thing. Now, you're also going to see success stories where the GM was right? I mean, so it's not, I don't want to always go the negative route, but I'm just trying to illustrate the importance of that position. And how often is the media going to talk to him, for instance? I mean, how accountable will he be in that sense, the GM? If he's making $800,000, which is more than most of the assistants, right? There's a level of accountability, right?
He's making on the same level of money of like Glenn Thomas.
Yeah. Not as much as a coordinator,
but like an associate coordinator type salary.
Yeah.
But it's close.
Hey, by the way, putting in perspective this new world. Sean Padden's job. This is Sean Padden's new job. He was the previous GM. He didn't have the type of role this new GM has. He had the title of GM. Now he's moving into this job, Sean Padden. It's called Assistant Athletic Director for Strategic Intelligence. I'm going to read you the job profile. I was at my kitchen table on Tuesday. I read this and I just all I can think is this college football world is changing so dramatically. I can't even, it's hard to process it. His focus will be, Sean, get ready, on cap analysis and compensation trends, stakeholder engagement, contract negotiations, data analytics leadership, collaboration, and implementations. I don't know what any of that even means. In my first hour today, Coach Rule, I'm going to spend on collaboration and implementation.
That's above my South Omaha education.
His focus will be on cap analysis and compensation trends. Okay. I'm sure there's some substance there, a lot of it probably. But man, do
you know what a lot of recruiting is going to go to though?
What?
Not really high school, it'll be high school to an extent, but recruiting is going to be now watching Group of Five, watching FCS, watching Division II, watching JUCO. Like that's going to become recruiting to an extent. You're still going to take your high school guys,
yep,
but the real recruiting is going to be what you find on the bottom end.
And you're paying attention to how much money you're paying
and how much value you can find in the bottom. I mean,
yeah, that's a good way to put it.
Going out and overbuying to get what Dante Dowdell for $600,000 or whatever Kentucky paid, that's easy.
Right.
Anybody can say that and you're going to buy somebody. Mm-hmm. But the real success teams are going to be the ones that can find value.
Mm-hmm.
And there's going to be a purge of lower level football that has players because the 105 roster size limits is going to keep players out. And the duty now to find them in the lower levels will be the real recruiting.
And fit them within your compensation model.
And get them in on entry level, whatever your entry level package is going to be. You got to find the best you can get at the entry level package.
Right. And there's a finite amount of money, and Rule, in a very telling comment on Tuesday, said, you can't be a penny over. You can't be a penny over.
Where I think now, before, when you could go like to get Rocco Spindler, some booster could have just said, hey, what do you need? Here's the check. Okay, we got Rocco Spindler. Like now with this new clearinghouse, we don't know how they're going to review the collective stepping in. They might veto some of those types of things because they say they're not going to be legal.
The clearinghouse.
So we shall see a lot there that we'll be talking about.
A lot.
Before we get to odds and ends, again, thanks for watching HuskerOnline Headlines. We're brought to you by a title sponsor, StayHome.Care. You got loved ones that need help, assistance. Maybe it's somebody coming off of surgery that you can't be with for a month that needs somebody to stay with them to help them. Call StayHome.Care. They can do simple tasks like grocery shopping, cooking, cleaning. They can give you rides to doctor's appointments. They're there to help you and the loved ones in your life. It's never too early to call at 402-205-2233. That's 402-205-2233. Our heart is with you because we put our heart in everything we do. Your home, our care. StayHome.Care. Okay, odds and ends. First and foremost, Fran McCaffrey is gone at Iowa. That is official. Iowa will now be looking for a new basketball coach. So I want to start the discussion there. Does that surprise you that Iowa and their athletic director, Beth Getz, is making a move on the very kind of out-of-date Fran McCaffrey, who clearly of this new age of college basketball, maybe he's not a fit for the future, and they're going to try to go in a new direction?
Yeah. Okay. Now, this is where you have to keep me in check from getting overly obnoxious about basketball discussion and turning everything into a Nebraska basketball discussion. You say out of touch. I don't know, Sean. This sounds like a dream at Nebraska. He reached 7 NCAA tournaments in 15 years. How many NCAA tournaments in the last 15 years has Nebraska made?
Well, this is not a comparison to Nebraska. I'm not comparing.
I was asking you to keep me from being obnoxious.
No, I'm not comparing this to Nebraska.
Right. Is he out of touch? I don't know. He just beat Nebraska twice. How out of touch is he?
Again,
you're pretty supportive of Fred, so he just beat Nebraska twice. I mean,
they had better expectations going into this year than Nebraska. Nebraska was playing over their level, and then they came back down even below what we thought that team would. I mean, Andy Katz picked Nebraska to finish towards the bottom of the Big Ten in the preseason.
Yeah. Am I surprised on Fran? No, he's 65. He's 65 years old. And they have not met. This is the second straight year they didn't make the tournament. That's trouble. Now, they had made it 4 straight years before that. But, you ask if I'm surprised, not from the standpoint it's been speculated, right? No, I'm not surprised.
Well,
they weren't bad, though, Sean. They weren't a bad team.
No, I mean, that's the whole Big Ten, though.
Yeah. Was there a bad team in the Big Ten? I'm going to say no.
Like, I would almost if Washington and Northwestern were the worst,
yeah,
they could still beat you.
Yeah.
What killed Fran, though, was the crowd numbers. Like, Iowa had one of its lowest attendance years in terms of tickets and butts in the seats we've ever seen.
Okay.
And that gets you killed.
You just got to the heart of the matter, probably. Right.
Like in a revenue share NIL era, and I think they were drawing like maybe 6,000 butts in the seats. I'm trying to find the tweet from Scott Docterman here where he broke down what the numbers were, but it was startling.
Yeah.
Like how low the numbers of attendance were for Fran McCaffrey.
So you'd say it was like the 4th major sport at Iowa, right? Behind football, wrestling, women's basketball, then men's basketball. You don't want men's basketball to be that far down the totem.
No, I mean, if they're drawing like 6,000, and then there's Nebraska who can't make the tournament seemingly, but they're still drawing 15,000.
Yeah. So Fran's out, and I don't think that either of us are qualified at this moment to say who the next coach will be. Your mind does shift immediately to Ben McCollum, though, right? Did Iowa make this move this quick to try to wrestle Ben McCollum, the Drake coach from Indiana? Is that what's going on? Because On3 reported yesterday that Indiana's is really strongly considering Ben McCollum, the Drake coach.
I'll say Darren DeVries,
okay,
who just went to West Virginia, but is from Iowa.
Yeah,
played at Northern Iowa, but his brother played at Iowa. Lisa taught his son Tucker in kindergarten.
Yeah. Now people are going to say, "Well, yeah, he just went to West Virginia," and I would say, "Yeah, but he can leave West Virginia."
And they didn't make they're not going to. They might. I don't know if they're making the tournament. They're like right on the line. They got beat in the Big 12 tournament, but
hey, McCollum's like 31-2 at Drake. They just won the Missouri Valley Conference.
He brought Northwest Missouri State transfers with him.
Yes, he did, including the MVC Player of the Year.
But again, though, it's like a Kurt Signetti type deal. Like, is that gonna travel to the Big Ten? That's what we don't know.
With Signetti,
but Drake to Iowa, huge step up.
Yeah, or Drake to Indiana. Anyway, is that Beth Getz saying, "Now wait a second, we got to get in this Ben McCollum sweepstakes"?
Well, here's the number on the attendance. I just found it. Iowa's men's basketball average attendance of 9,131 was the lowest since 1964-65. That season, they don't have anything on record before that. I had to go through the box scores. The average scan ticket per game, not counting the exhibition, was only 5,172 butts in the seat.
That's trouble.
56.6% of tickets available to Iowa's men's basketball were purchased, and only 34.6% of seats were filled. Last year, Iowa sold $4 million in basketball tickets.
The crux is usually it's always wins, losses, but that coupled with low attendance, death knell.
They only filled 34.6% of their seats.
Yeah, that's
like butts in the seat.
Didn't go to the NCAA tournament. People aren't attending. Age 65. No, not surprised. I don't think he endears himself particularly well to boosters. From what I've gathered, no, not a surprise. They probably need a change. The team I saw in Lincoln was pretty good. I mean, you got the Price Sanford and Peyton Sanford and Dix and that kid Harding knocking down 3-pointers, Brock Harding. It's a nice team. They pushed Illinois in the Big Ten tournament. They were 10.5-point underdogs, scored 94, and Illinois still covered. I mean, they don't play defense enough.
All right. Moving on to Nebraska. Here we are on Sunday. We'll find out the NCAA tournament field. Well, Nebraska will find out their next move.
The crown.
It's going to be in Las Vegas. And what this has turned into is a Fox versus ESPN battle. Where the Big East, the Big 12, and the Big 10 are kind of aligned with the crown in Las Vegas, where it's only going to allow major conference teams in. And you're not going to play, though, until after the Sweet 16 is set. So you don't play for like a whole nother 10 days from Sunday.
High-profile tournament, all in Las Vegas, right?
Right. And the NIT is going to anchor in more with the ACC and the SEC
battle,
which guess who has those channels?
ESPN.
So Fox wants their own basketball programming to showcase on the days of the non-tournament, the Tuesday, Wednesday type, Friday, third, the days where there's not games going on.
Power four teams.
There'll be 2 auto bids from the Big East, the Big 12, and the Big 10.
So it's sort of this made-for-TV event.
Right. And they only want brands. And it's attractive because there's also NIL money tied to it. But it's also attractive because if you're Fred Hoiberg, do you want to play like in the NIT against like Ryder?
Okay.
And then worse, get beat by Ryder.
At home.
AD,
Sean, you'd be a decent AD. If I wouldn't want Nebraska to play, would you want Nebraska to play at home in the NIT right now?
Who was it that one year Kentucky played in the NIT when Calipari was there, and they had to go on the road to like Mercer in like a little high school gym, and they got beat.
Yeah, great, wonderful.
But yeah, NIT, it's hard to sell tickets too because you as a ticket holder, you don't just get auto billed. Like you have to commit to buy.
Okay.
And it's really hard to fill an NIT gym up because you only have a few days. So it doesn't even look good.
The crown is, I mean, we're like 95.
They're going to the crown. I talked to Robin, and that's what's happening.
Okay.
And, like North Carolina would go to the NIT if they don't make the tournament. But yeah, you could play like
North Carolina. I think they're going to make it. But okay, so
like Xavier and Villanova could be in the crown.
Right. They're on the bubble. Now, so my question to you is, what is your level of interest in the crown? What is your level of interest?
Well, knowing that Northwestern's out, they're not going to go.
They're not going to go for
Minnesota fired Ben Johnson. They're probably out. Iowa's not playing. I mean, is there any way Iowa would play in this now?
I don't think so. So
it'd be like Nebraska and
I don't know,
Washington,
Penn State. Will they get a bid?
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't know what it's going to look like. I hate talking about things I don't know.
I'll watch it.
Would you?
I'll definitely watch it. I mean, I'll watch Nebraska basketball anywhere.
Yeah. I'm not quite as enthusiastic about it as you, but for my job purposes, yeah, I guess I would.
All right, moving on. Good segue. What you're also not enthusiastic about is football players doing TikTok dances in the locker room. And it sounds like you and Rich Rodriguez are on the same page.
Yeah, we are. He's 61. I'm 58. I put a post on our message board about it. So Rich Rodriguez, Sean, I'm supposed to not say Sean as much.
Interesting.
He's not banning TikTok on his team. He's just banning dancing on TikTok because he says we want the image of a hard-nosed team That's not the image I want. So it makes sense to me, his reasoning. He has to be careful not to come off as an old. It's sort of inevitable, though, if you're going to take that stance. He said, look, I guess I make the rules here, so that's the rule I'm making. I can't keep them off TikTok, but I can stop them from dancing in their tights on TikTok.
Have you ever walked in on a TikTok being taped?
No.
I was at the Devaney Center, my daughter's swim practice. And,
okay.
And I don't know if they were Husker athletes or something, but they had their phone up like on kind of like an elevated brick. So it was setting up there, but it's like dead silence. And you just walk in there and there's like 3 girls dancing kind of in silence. I'm like, what's going on here? Oh, they're doing a TikTok. I mean, and it's one of those things like watching the sausage get made is not near as interesting as actually eating the sausage.
Yeah.
Like when you see a TikTok being taped, especially, you're like, God, that looks so weird. Then you watch it, like, oh, pretty cool. You know, like,
I don't have that second sentiment as much as you do. Oh, pretty cool.
Oh, I mean, sometimes you're like entertain, but yeah, like there's money people make on that stuff, not near as much as YouTube. Like YouTube is the gold standard of video payout. Like TikTok pays pennies.
Rich Rod takes, it caught, you know what? A lot of people commented on it. They were, I can't say the word interested. It got their attention. All
right. Dan Mullen's contract got your attention, Sipple. He signed a big deal to go to UNLV. The problem is UNLV can really only financially commit to this 4-year deal for 2 years.
5-year deal. It's a 5-year deal. The problem is UNLV's athletic department is somewhere between $26 million and $31 million in the red. Okay, do you see the problem? So here's how it happened. And you would understand this completely, Sean. AD, put yourself in his shoes. I kind of think of you as an AD sometimes. He's at a Board of Regents meeting, and they're discussing financials. And a Board of Regent member asks the AD at the Board of Regents meeting, how are we going about paying the head coach if we're $26 million in debt in the athletic department? At that point, the AD, I'm sure, didn't want to answer the question, but he answered it and said, we can only guarantee 2 years right now. Oh, I wonder if they told Dan Mullen that beforehand, or if there was a quick text sent to him. By the way, you're going to hear this report out of the Board of Regents meeting because there's reporters here. And it's true. We can only guarantee you the first 2 years.
Well, and UNLV should be in that Pac-12, but they're not. They're stuck in the Mountain West because of, I think, the politics tying them to Nevada.
I can't ask you this question
why
are they so far in debt? I mean, why are they $26 million in debt?
Well, because people don't go to their games. I mean, people don't buy luxury suites there. People don't really support their program at the level
they haven't over the years.
And they haven't. I mean, one of our friends that was up here this summer, John Trish, was a TV guy in Las Vegas. And he said, Sean, it's when you go to like a practice there, it's like going to high school. There's like no one there. I mean, it's just not even, it's at a different level. Yes, you're in Las Vegas, but that's about it.
So his contract is $17.5 million over 5 years.
In fact, you could argue Bishop Gorman High School probably gets more coverage than UNLV.
And how are they going to pay him? The AD's response was, well, philanthropic donations and tickets. And, the football program paying ticket prices probably is what we're talking about, and potentially filling the stadium. So Dan Mullen, I'm thinking about Dan Mullen is probably thinking, if I'm going to get paid, I probably need to win. Unfair position to put him in. I hope maybe he took the job knowing this. As of today, I don't think Mullen's commented on it, but it's sort of awkward.
They couldn't even afford to pay their quarterback $100,000 last year.
Mm-hmm. I don't know. It's sort of an awkward situation, right?
UNLV, that will be but they need to get to the Pac-12, and that would give them a little bit more money.
Is that a thought right now?
Well, I think the politics won't allow them to separate from
Pac-12 is not even in existence.
Yes. Where have you been? So Washington State, Oregon State, and a group of other teams have moved in to form the Pac-12. So kind of the better of the brands from the Mountain West, and then Oregon State and Washington State have regenerated the Pac-12. And UNLV is still stuck in the Mountain West with like Wyoming and Nevada and some of those teams. So for them, if they could get into the Pac-12, that would probably help them. But
okay,
I think Gonzaga is in the Pac-12 for basketball, at least too. I mean, so like there's a lot to it. But finally, on this note, I want to end on the
where have you been was the question.
Sean. Well, you didn't realize the Pac-12 kind of
how official is this right now?
Well, that Pac-12 team, like it's in March. So as of March, the new Pac-12 is Oregon State, Washington State, Boise State, Colorado State, Fresno State, San Diego State, Utah State, and Gonzaga.
When do they begin play?
I think a year from now.
A year from now, okay.
So that is their conference that they've set up, and UNLV should be in this thing with these groups.
A year from now.
But they're not. Like UNLV's, for the politics, didn't allow it. But I want to get on the last thing here because we're way over time, but we haven't done a show all week, so we got a lot to say. Pius Norris, basketball game, delivered one of the best finishes that we've ever seen in the state tournament. And, Pius had every opportunity to win this game. They missed, I believe, 7 free throws down the stretch.
Okay. And then
Norris had to hit a logo 3 to tie it.
It was more than a logo.
No, to tie it.
Oh, to tie it.
Yeah, they hit a logo 3 to tie it.
Oh, my bad. 49-49.
And then Pius threw a full court pass. They ran one of those classic, you tip the ball plays to the shooter and the guy shoots. Well, the guy tipped it to a Norris player, Bosinger, and Bosinger caught it from 3/4 court and makes it. Number 1 sports play on ESPN yesterday. Unreal.
Yeah, he's Norris's all-time leading scorer. He's a dude. And yeah, he made an incredible shot in an incredible situation. And the crowd, it was amazing to watch.
You know who the coach of Norris is?
No.
Jimmy Moats.
Oh, is it Jimmy Moats?
Former Creighton Blue Jay. There's Jimmy right there.
I heard Jimmy Rose, a friend of the show, say a great line this morning on his radio show. If there's anyone you would think that could defend a Hail Mary, it would be Lincoln Pius.
That's Rosie.
Yeah, it's a good line, Jimmy.
Tough. I mean, my kids will go to Pius, obviously. So, we were following the score at the airport, and I was like, oh, Pius is going to do this. It would have been a big upset because Norris had beaten them twice pretty soundly this year. It's hard to beat a good team 3 times, but Norris gets the win, and who knows what we'll see, but maybe a Norris-Scott final.
Okay.
But, all right.
Sean, how long was that show?
We went like an hour and 10 minutes.
That's not too bad.
But, all right, well, Sip, it's good to be back.
Yeah, sorry about that Pac-12 thing. I'm going to look that up. What the heck?
Yeah, the Pac-12, the better brands in the Mountain West, along with Oregon State and Washington State, are getting together to kind of form kind of more of a
Where have I been?
Upgraded Mountain West.
Where have I been?
Don't know.
I you know what? My job is to cover Nebraska athletics.
But yeah, I mean, Gonzaga is going to be in that league too.
Not football though.
They don't have football. There's only 2 Catholic Division I football programs, Notre Dame and Boston College. Kit and I had that discussion last night. We were watching the Big East tournament, and
Kit
explained to her the Big East schools, none of them have football. And I was explaining that to her. And there's only 2 Catholic schools that have football. Gonzaga is not one of them.
Hey, so Big East, none of those schools have it?
UConn, that's it.
I'll be damned.
But they're the only non-Catholic school in the Big East.
Yeah. It's confusing to older people because Syracuse used to be a Big East team in my day. They're an ACC team now, but they have football. Syracuse, when I think of the Big East, I still kind of think of Villanova and Syracuse. Villanova has football, right? Villanova has football.
Not Division I.
Not Division I.
FCS.
Yeah, FCS.
Yeah, so there's only 2 FBS Catholic.
Really hard to keep it all in.
Boston College and Notre Dame.
It's challenging. I mean, you see the ACC tournament, and you see Stanford beats Cal. It's like, what? Yeah, ACC. It's just odd. Oddness.
All right. Well, we'll be back Monday. Another headlines, as we'll probably have some postseason basketball.
I'll brush up on the Pac-12 in the meantime.
Okay. For Steve Sipple, I'm Sean Callahan. Enjoy your weekend.